Hello everybody, I am in the San Gabriel Mountains today in the Angeles National Forest, about to do a day hike called the Bridge to Nowhere. You can see behind me there's this gorgeous river canyon. It's a fun little hike. It should be about 10 miles and it follows the San Gabriel River up to a beautiful 1930s bridge that's in the middle of nowhere. It's called the Bridge to Nowhere. And there was originally going to be a road built to connect the valley to a mountain town, the mountain town of Wrightwood, but when construction of the road was going on, there's a flash flood came and wiped it all out. So there is now a road that connects the valley to Wrightwood, but it is higher in elevation. So today we're going to take the trail that is the old road. It's got a couple of water crossings, a little bit of scrambling, and then it ends up at that beautiful bridge. And I just want to point out, this is the parking lot. This is a weekday morning, very early. It is not very big, and this is very close to a major metropolitan area. So if you're here on the weekend, you need to get here early. Absolutely need to get here early. There's only one entrance to this trail, and it's right off the parking lot here. You just follow this road closed sign. It's going to lead down to a campground, which also can be absolutely packed. And just a quick view down the canyon here. I do want to point out that if you do this hike, you do need to buy an adventure pass to park at the parking lot. It is a fee area, and there is no way to buy it at the parking lot. At least when I've been here. So there is a list online of where to get your adventure passes. Just pick one that's close to you. If you've got the annual parks pass, that's actually an interagency pass. The annual national parks pass, excuse me. It's an interagency pass and it's also accepted here. So that's what I've got for my parking permit. Just make sure you get one of those. Otherwise you could end up with a ticket. So first things first, heading down to that little campground area. Okay, this is the little campground. I'm not sure what the name of it is. It's got the last pit toilet along the way, so make sure you use it. It's got these little campsites down here to the left that are right next to the river. That's the East Fork of the San Gabriel River. At this point too, there are connections to other trails. You can see up here another trailhead, the Heaton Flats trailhead. If I were to guess, this is the Heaton Flats campground. And up here are permits. This trail enters the Sheep Mountain Wilderness, and you're supposed to have self-issue day hike permits. Yeah, that's about right. You can only fill them out if they're there. So here's a map of the area, Sheep Mountain Wilderness. We are going right here, East Fork Trail, up to the Bridge to Nowhere. And that is this way. And you can see it's very shaded right now. It's early in the day. This is a weekday, so I don't have to worry about parking, but this canyon cooks. It really heats up, and it's nice to have at least a little bit of shade for at least part of it. So it's a good idea to get here early. First time I did this trail, I was invited with a friend. Neither of us had really done a lot of hiking. We arrived at 10. We had to park a mile away. She actually got heat exhaustion because it's no joke, the heat in this canyon. And we also ran out of water. Luckily somebody had a filter we can use. So get here early, bring plenty of water, and then it also helps to bring one of those little personal filters too, just in case you or other people who came ill-prepared run out of water. This is just a couple steps down from the campground. You can see the San Gabriel River here. We're going to be following just up the canyon, but this also becomes more of a trail. And this area sees a lot of activity. You can see there's some rock scrambling here to do too, but there's steps carved out, at least in this section. Probably shouldn't be filming while I'm doing this, but it's kind of easy to get lost on here because there's a lot of what's called social trails, where people walked it enough that kind of creates its own trail and it's not an official trail. So the strategy here is to stay, if you're heading up to the bridge, stay on the right bank, and there will be 3 sets of crossings where you kind of cross over to the left bank and then cross back right over to the right bank a little bit further down. So just stay to the right. There are arrows now, spray painted arrows that have been added onto this that make it a little easier to follow. So I'll try to point out the mandatory crossings. There's a whole bunch of elective crossings here. I'll point that out as well. But now we're on a trail and headed upstream up this canyon. Coming up on the first mandatory crossing will be this big rock that you run into. You can see the trails on the other side here. This is flowing pretty good. I just charged through. Let me just do that. This water will vary. Based on the time of year, precipitation, snow melt. There are times when you can just cross over these rocks here, but today is not one of those days. One of the common things I see is people bring sandals to cross. I thought I was going to do that the first time too. And what happens is these crossings are fairly close together. I think this is the one with the biggest stretch. And I mean, you're just constantly taking your shoes on and off, and you're putting your socks on and they're still getting wet anyway. So a lot of people still like to do it. I think just charging through is the strategy that works for me. So got a little bit on this left bank, and then we'll be crossing back over to the right. As I pass heavily graffitied ruins, these are ruins from when they were trying to build the road here. I'm not sure if this is a bridge or if these were just buildings that were supposed to be along the road, but this is the second part of that first crossing, so second crossing total. Admittedly, there was already an elective crossing that I did. This is a bit of a choose your own adventure at times. Excuse me. Big root I had to climb over. It's choose your own adventure at times, where you can kind of scale the rocks along the bank, or you can just charge through the water. When it's dry, you probably don't need to scramble up much rocks at all. So second crossing, flow is pretty good right now because it just rained maybe like 24 hours ago, a little over 24 hours ago. And there is snow melting from the mountains up top. So this does not look like this all the time, but this is the most fun time, there's my legs, to hike this trail, I think, because the crossings are a little bit more adventurous. You do have to watch out for flash floods though, so just keep that in mind. This area does flash flood. Okay. Heading back to the quote-unquote dry part of the trail. I think there's a good dry stretch for a while. What I'll try to do is on the way out show mostly the crossings, and then on the way back when the canyon's lit up a little bit more, show what it kind of looks like in between the crossings. Here is one of the arrows I think I was talking about. I hope I talked about earlier. That tells you the direction you should head on the trail, and also one of the electives. So I've done this trail recently, and taking the river, it actually does get a little deep in sections. So there is this trail that goes above it, and it's a little slick, but it's not as bad as it looks. So with the river running so high, my choose your own adventure option is going to be the rocks. And this is where it comes out. You can see the trail goes uphill anyway, so you can take the river, come out here. You can see there's people camping over there. They are probably, see if I can focus on it, no I can't. They are probably actually panning for gold over there, because there is still gold in the San Gabriel River. That's the third set of people I've seen panning for gold on this particular trip. So still heading up the dry side because I did not take the elective crossing of the river. My GPS has me at a little under 2.5 miles, and there's a bridge that crosses into the Sheep Mountain Wilderness. And if there were permits available at the trailhead, this is where you would need your permit for. There's no permit, there's nothing you can really do. I have a feeling that gets filled up on the weekends. Midweek, not so much. But Sheep Mountain Wilderness is an appropriate name because I've never seen them up here. But there are bighorn sheep, and they're not going to be right next to the sign usually. There's bighorn sheep in the area. I know there's biologists who do surveys out here looking for them. I don't see any. They are hard to see, but there's sheep out here. So the first set of crossings was about a mile in. This is about 2.5 miles. And there have been a lot of elective crossings in the meantime. But only one kind of major official one. Second set of crossings. My GPS says 2.8. I think we all know GPS doesn't really work that well in a canyon, but this is a set that I kind of like to do just as one because I'm just heading straight across here past this log. So there's some people over here who decided to cross. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk upstream. So this can be crossing number 4 and 5? No, 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Or it can just be crossing number 3 officially. A little deep right now. Again, it's running pretty high. For those of you who live where there's actually water, that's not high, but for Southern California, that's pretty high. So just heading straight across here, and just this other side of the bank is the other side of the crossing where we cross back over to the trail. So you can do this one as 2 fully separate crossings, or you can just hike upstream here. And then afterwards, find the shallowest part. Afterwards, you're just kind of going up this hill past this rune. According to my personal track, I am at mile 3.4 right now. A little bit of scramble. And this is the start of the last set of crossings. These I feel tend to be the deepest when I've done them before. Maybe it's because it's at the narrower parts. Yeah, this is going to be a little, I would say, Southern California deep at the beginning here. Oh yeah, almost to the knees. Down there, okay. But, I mean, it's moving pretty good for this river. It's not super swift though. So this one you can't really cheat on. You gotta take the trail on the other bank and it'll pop you around. We're basically going to, I don't know if you can see this cliff right here, the other side of this cliff. And on the other side you can actually see the old road used to run on top of that cliff. Coming out to the last crossing of the 3rd set. So if you're doing an individual, counting it individually, it's either crossing number 5 or 6, depending on if you made that last one a long one. If you've been doing the elective crossings, I don't know, it could be like 10 at this point. This one is a little bit rockier, a little bit swifter, and I find to be a little deeper. So I'm going to try to film and find the best spots. Put my feet at the same time. Pretty good so far. Okay. A little swifter there. Oh, my knees got wet. Okay. So heading off to the other bank. I'm going to turn around real quick. And you can see there's a little bit better flow here. And I did have one spot that got up to my knee. So can take any of these trails up here, because what is going to happen now is you're kind of making your way along the bank here until you find the area that cuts up to, you can see the road, this line across here, and then coming back here, that flat spot is the cliff we just walked around, and you can see there's nothing left of where the road would be until you get to here. So there's some of those blue arrows in this section too, but you're basically just looking at that cliff until you find that steep trail that goes up to join that original old road bed. And there's no super bloom this year, but just a reminder, it is spring. I've seen some sporadic wildflowers along the trail. Some yellow, some orange, obviously some pink. I haven't seen any purples yet, but a couple wildflowers along the way. I'm on the old roadbed right now, and this is the one part of the trail. It does go uphill, so I'm breathing a little hard. This is the part of the trail that kind of deviates from the river. It's always going to be down here. I don't know if you can see it through the phone, but it's always going to be down on the left, but this one actually goes up and above the river. So there's a whole bunch of social trails on this route. It's really easy to follow the wrong one. I've done it. If you're following the river upstream or downstream, depending on the direction you want to go, you're doing the right thing. You'll find the main path eventually, and if you run into a corner, you just backtrack. I have admittedly done that many times, so it's no big deal. Just backtrack. Just kind of factor it into your hike, especially if you've never done this hike before. Expect to do a little bit of backtracking. Just about mile 4.4 according to my GPS track today. And I have the Welcome to the Bridge to Nowhere sign. This is the start of the private inholding in the National Forest. And the bridge is actually technically private property. And there is a bungee jump operation that operates off of the bridge. They shouldn't be there today, but that is an option if that appeals to you. I've never really had the interest to do it. You still have to do this 4.5-5 mile hike to get out here to do it though. But coming up on the Bridge to Nowhere, it doesn't come up right away, but once you see that in-holding sign, you're getting close. And here it is, the bridge that leads to, as you can see, nowhere. Here's the top of the canyon down there. There's a little bit of a trail that kind of pitters out and it leads to kind of a scramble down to the river down there. But otherwise, this bridge just leads into a slide. Oh, look here. I was wondering what the year was. It's 1936 this bridge was built, and I'm gonna get to the other side because there's a better view. It's a really, really beautiful bridge. It looks like one of the bridges you find along the Big Sur area. It's just looking down the canyon a bit, and obviously these bridge engineers did a really, really good job. Road engineers, maybe not so much, but bridge engineers, it's still here. It still looks beautiful, and you can obviously cross it without issue. It's a great bridge, but it is literally in the middle of nowhere, which is why this hike is labeled Bridge to Nowhere. And here it is in all of its glory. It really, truly is a beautiful bridge built right into the rock there. This is obviously a popular Instagram spot. If you've made it out this far, there's the bungee jump operation that usually occurs, especially in summer. And it's just, you got the canyon here, you got some pools down there. This is usually where I turn around when I do this hike, just because I really don't have any interest to go down there and some in the pools, especially because there is a little bit of a scramble. It can get a little dangerous if you're not used to scrambling. Up canyon, if you go further up canyon, there's actually the old mines. The old mines are still up there, and you can see ruins of those mining camps and such. Those mines are played out. You can still find gold in the river if you work hard enough, but the mines themselves are played out. Once again, the San Gabriel River slowly panned down the canyon. You can get closer to the bridge. There's definitely people down there, so I'm gonna keep my distance. But that is the bridge, and it does go to nowhere, to a landslide. Okay, heading back, same way I came in, just following the river. This first section is obviously above the river. I logged it as about 4.8 miles total to the bridge, so should be about a mile from that last crossing to the bridge itself. And it is hot and exposed, especially on the way back. You really have to worry about water. I have a little bit of shade from the canyon right here, but that will be going away. So on the way back, I will try to show some of the non-water features that I didn't show on the way up. Just give me something to talk about. So actually all along the trail, there are portions like this one right here, and you can see right here at the edge that still have some of the old pavement. You can see a little bit more on these sections up here. Obviously, there's a lot of it missing, but there are stretches that have good pavement. And around the bend here, it's gonna take me a little bit to get to it, is an example of why this is a horrible place for a road, not even that great a place for a trail. And that's because this area does flood, it is prone to slides, and it is prone to washouts. So just around here is a nice washout of the actual trail itself. Now the good thing about this trail is it's so popular that even when there is a nice washout like this, people are going to be around to kind of pound down that tread to cross it. And we just had a rain, and even now, it's still got some decent tread pounded in. And I am one of those people who has helped, so you are welcome. So just proceed with caution, but usually the tread is not super bad. It's right here, I got it. It's a bus stop.
How cool is that, right?
Yeah.
Bigfoot crossing?
In the middle of nowhere. So that was just a sign for a bus stop and a Bigfoot crossing. I can't imagine they'd be still here from the 30s. But you can't get a bus out here, obviously. You can barely get me out here. Just a little fun extra on this trip. And here we have more evidence of why a road was probably a bad idea, and hikers are a bad idea during rainstorms. This looks like flood debris down here. And the reason it looks like flood debris to me is it's all facing the same direction, and that direction happens to be downstream. So, pretty ill-fated road from the beginning. Even this hiking trail gets washed out at times too. As I'm in the last mile here, and I'm in a nice shaded spot, I wanted to point out something that amuses me anyway. And if you've ever seen the television show Deadwood, this should look kind of familiar to you. That's because they use the San Gabriel River as the gold claim area. Now when I watch it, it looks like the San Gabriel River with extra logs to me and not South Dakota. But it wasn't here, obviously. Anything that has filming requires parking areas and road access, so it wasn't here. May not have even been on this fork. This is the East Fork. If I had to guess, it would probably be the North Fork of the San Gabriel River, but if you're a fan of Deadwood, go back and watch it. It looks exactly like this with a couple extra logs. Just turn the corner and there's the parking lot. A lot more parked up, and I'd like to remind you, it is a weekday. Weekends you definitely need to be here as early as you can, and even then it might already be parked up a little bit. So that's the end of this hike. I'm a little sad because this has been such a fun hike. I do like it when the water levels are higher like that and the temperatures don't give me heat strokes. So just a little bit further to that parking lot. So that is it for the Bridge to Nowhere hike. That was honestly a lot of fun. I know it's been a long time since I've posted anything on YouTube, and it has been pointed out to me, politely been pointed out to me. Hoping to change that as the hiking season comes up. I do have reasons, legitimate reasons I don't think I really need to share with the internet, but so long as life doesn't throw too much more at me, hopefully the next month I'll be able to get something else up. Definitely gonna try to get more as the temperatures warm up and more hiking areas are opened. So until then, I'll see you later.